The discovery. The morning sun had barely begun to rise over Jerusalem when Dr. Eliana Katz received a call that would change history forever. An excavation team working in the city of David had struck something unexpected: a massive stone door sealed with ancient inscriptions. The markings were unmistakable to anyone familiar with biblical archaeology. This was written in the royal script of ancient Israel's golden age. "We need you here immediately," said the voice on the other end, belonging to her colleague Dr. Yosef Abadi. The urgency in his tone told her everything she needed to know. After 3 decades of searching, after countless failed expeditions and academic ridicule, they had found it: the tomb of King Solomon. Within hours, the news had spread through archaeological circles, though the Israeli Antiquities Authority maintained strict silence to the public. The excavation site, already under heavy security due to its proximity to sensitive religious areas, was now completely locked down. Only a select team of 12 researchers was allowed access to what would soon be recognized as the most significant biblical archaeological discovery of the century. The entrance. The sealed doorway stood 8 feet tall, carved from a single massive limestone block. Its surface was covered in ancient Hebrew script, not the square Aramaic-influenced letters of later periods, but the distinctive Paleo-Hebrew of the First Temple period. The inscriptions spoke of the house of eternal rest for Shlomo ben David, beloved of God, King of Israel. For 3 days, experts debated how to proceed. The tomb had remained sealed for nearly 3,000 years, not 5,000 as popular accounts would later exaggerate. Opening it improperly could damage priceless artifacts inside or trigger ancient structural collapses. More concerning was the mention of protective measures in the inscriptions, which warned of a curse upon those who disturb the king's rest. "We can't let superstition delay scientific progress," argued Dr. Mikhail Volkov, the team's structural engineer, "but we must proceed with extraordinary caution." On the 4th day, using specialized equipment designed for minimal invasive impact, the team began the painstaking process of opening the stone door. As the massive block slowly pivoted on its ancient hinge mechanism, itself a remarkable feat of engineering for the time, the researchers stood in silent awe. No human had passed through this entrance since mourners sealed it nearly 3 millennia ago. The antechamber. The air that rushed out was stale, but remarkably dry, preserved by the tomb's ingenious design that had maintained a stable environment for thousands of years. The team's lights revealed an antechamber approximately 30 feet square, its walls covered in brilliant murals depicting scenes from Solomon's life: his judgment between 2 mothers, the building of the temple, the visit of the Queen of Sheba. The preservation was unprecedented. The pigments remained vibrant, protected from light and moisture for millennia. But it was what stood in the center of the chamber that first caused the team to, as later reports would describe, turn pale with astonishment. A golden lion, life-sized and intricately detailed, stood guard before the inner doorway. Its eyes were set with carnelian stones that seemed to glow in the team's lights. The craftsmanship was unlike anything seen from this period, the musculature perfectly rendered, the mane elaborately detailed, the pose capturing a sense of coiled power and majesty. "This single artifact would revolutionize our understanding of ancient Israelite artistry," whispered Dr. Katz, circling the statue with her camera. The biblical descriptions of Solomon's wealth and artistic patronage were not exaggerations. But the lion was merely the beginning. Surrounding it were ceremonial vessels of gold and silver, each bearing inscriptions identifying them as items from Solomon's palace or the First Temple itself. Among them, most striking was a miniature replica of the temple, complete with removable roof sections that revealed the interior arrangement, a priceless reference for scholars who had long debated the exact layout of the legendary structure. Dr. Abadi, examining inscriptions on the inner doorway, suddenly stepped back. "This isn't just Solomon's tomb," he announced, his voice quavering slightly. "According to this text, it contains the treasures of wisdom granted by God to the king. I believe we've found Solomon's library." The library chamber. The second chamber was smaller but even more astonishing. Along its walls stood shelves carved from the living rock, and upon them rested dozens of scrolls and codices, preserved in metal cases sealed with wax and resin. The dry, stable environment had protected these priceless documents for thousands of years. With trembling hands, Dr. Sarah Chen, the team's expert in ancient documents, examined the cases. These appear to be original. More puzzling were the items that matched no known biblical description. A set of crystal spheres arranged in a pattern suggesting the solar system. A mechanism of interlocking metal rings that appeared to be an astronomical calculator. And most mysteriously, a small chest of what appeared to be electroplated gold, containing crystalline objects of unknown purpose. Solomon was renowned not just for wisdom but for knowledge, noted Dr. Chen. These may represent scientific or mathematical instruments far ahead of their time. As the team continued their inventory, Dr. Volkov made another startling discovery. The sarcophagus itself appeared to be sealed not with mortar, but with an unknown metallic substance. More surprising, there were no visible seams or joints. The lid and base appeared to be fused together through some unknown technique. "We need to determine if the king's remains are actually inside," said Dr. Volkov. "But I'm not certain how to open this without potentially damaging what could be the most important archaeological find in history." The team decided to bring in specialized equipment to scan the sarcophagus non-invasively before attempting to open it. But as they made preparations, Dr. Chen noticed something unusual about the inscription band circling the room. "This isn't just decorative," she said slowly. "It's a continuous text, written in a form of cipher. I recognize elements from the Song of Songs. It's using poetic metaphors as a key to something." Working through the night, she began to decode the message, a process that would ultimately yield the most shocking discovery of all. The wisdom revealed. 3 days later, with the tomb now under 24-hour security and monitored by environmental control systems, Dr. Chen finally completed her translation of the cipher text. The team gathered in the burial chamber as she prepared to share her findings. "It's written as if Solomon himself is speaking to whoever finds his tomb," she explained. "It begins with a warning, and then instructions." According to Dr. Chen's translation, the inscription contained Solomon's final testament, a message he intended for future generations. It spoke of knowledge granted to him by God, wisdom that had allowed him to understand the natural world in ways beyond his time. But it also warned of knowledge that mankind might not be ready to receive. The text describes the contents of this chamber as tokens of wisdom, preserved until the world has eyes to see, Dr. Chen explained. Solomon apparently believed that certain knowledge should remain hidden until humanity had evolved sufficiently to use it responsibly. Most surprising was the inscription's reference to the sarcophagus itself. According to the text, it contained not Solomon's body but rather the greatest of all treasures, truth that saves and truth that destroys. With growing excitement and trepidation, the team completed their scan of the sarcophagus. The results were baffling. The interior appeared to contain not a body, but an object of unknown composition, approximately the size of a small chest. After extensive consultation with religious authorities, government officials, and scientific experts, the decision was made to open the sarcophagus. Using precision tools and working with extreme care, technicians finally breached the mysterious seal. Inside, they found a single object, a box made of an unknown alloy, its surface inscribed with mathematical formulas and astronomical diagrams that defied ancient understanding. When opened, it contained a set of thin metal plates, each engraved with text in multiple ancient languages. Dr. Chen's preliminary translation revealed content that left the team stunned. Detailed information about natural laws, mathematical principles, and cosmological models that wouldn't be rediscovered by science for thousands of years. There were descriptions of atomic structure, gravitational waves, and principles of quantum mechanics, expressed through ancient metaphors and analogies. It's as if Solomon had access to scientific knowledge that wouldn't be discovered until the 20th century, Dr. Chen whispered. Yet it's clearly written in authentic ancient script, using materials and methods consistent with his era. More controversial were passages that appeared to predict future historical events with uncomfortable accuracy. The fall of Jerusalem, the rise and fall of empires, and cryptic references to modern technological developments. These sections caused immediate debate among the research team. with some suggesting they were later additions, others arguing they merely reflected Solomon's political wisdom and insight. Yet it was the final plates that caused the greatest concern. They contained what appeared to be technological schematics, designs for devices far beyond ancient capabilities, with notations warning of their destructive potential. Alongside these were philosophical reflections on humanity's tendency towards self-destruction, and Solomon's decision to withhold this knowledge until mankind had developed the wisdom to use it properly. He buried these secrets with himself, Dr. Katz observed, not because he feared they would be lost, but because he feared they would be found before we were ready for them. The ethical dilemma. The discovery presented unprecedented ethical challenges. Here was knowledge that could potentially transform modern science and technology, yet it came with explicit warnings from one of history's most renowned wise men about the dangers it posed. The team was divided. Some argued that the knowledge should be released immediately for the benefit of humanity. Others insisted that Solomon's warnings should be heeded, and the most sensitive information kept restricted until its implications could be fully assessed. "We're not just archaeologists anymore," Dr. Abadi said during a tense meeting. "We've become custodians of something that could change the course of human history, for better or worse." As the debate continued, strange phenomena began to occur at the excavation site. Electrical equipment malfunctioned inexplicably. Team members reported unusual dreams and sensations of being watched. Most disturbing were the inexplicable readings from environmental monitoring equipment, fluctuations in electromagnetic fields, and radiation levels that defied scientific explanation. "It's as if the knowledge itself is active," Dr. Volkov observed after a particularly strange incident where all digital devices in the burial chamber simultaneously failed. Or as if opening the tomb has triggered something we don't understand. The Israeli government, recognizing the potential significance of the find, established an international oversight committee comprised of scientists, religious leaders, and ethicists from diverse backgrounds. Their task was monumental: determine how to proceed with what might be the most consequential archaeological discovery in human history.
The new discoveries here at the Church of the Holy Sepulchre happened during a recent restoration around the tomb of Jesus. That's when excavators dug below the original level of the 4th century church.
The shocking discovery. As archaeologists carefully removed the final section of the 19th century floor tiles surrounding the edicule in the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, a collective gasp echoed through the ancient basilica. Beneath layers of accumulated dust and debris, they uncovered an intact 1st century burial cloth, remarkably preserved in a small sealed cavity that had somehow remained untouched despite centuries of reconstruction and renovation. The cloth, bearing traces of what appeared to be blood and aromatic substances consistent with burial practices of the period, sent shockwaves through the research team. Dr. Francesca Romana Stasola, leading the excavation, immediately halted all work and called for specialized preservation equipment as team members, visibly shaken, documented the extraordinary find. While laboratory analysis is still pending, the location and preservation of this artifact, directly beneath the traditional site of Christ's burial, represents potentially the most significant archaeological discovery related to early Christianity in modern history. The sacred site. The Church of the Holy Sepulchre stands in the Christian quarter of Jerusalem's Old City and is one of Christianity's most sacred sites. According to Christian tradition, this church contains both the site of Jesus' crucifixion at Calvary, Golgotha, and his empty tomb, where he was buried, and according to Christian belief, resurrected. The church has been a significant pilgrimage destination since the 4th century, when it was first built under Emperor Constantine's direction. Archaeological evidence has confirmed that the site was originally outside Jerusalem's city walls in the 1st century CE, aligning with biblical accounts that Jesus was crucified and buried outside the city. The area was initially a limestone quarry during the Iron Age, about 1200 to 586 BCE, which was later abandoned and repurposed. This history has been confirmed through extensive archaeological excavations beneath the church, which have revealed pottery, lamps, and other everyday objects dating back to that period. The ongoing excavation. In 2019, after decades of disagreement, the three main religious communities responsible for the Church, the Greek Orthodox Patriarchate, the custody of the Holy Land, and the Armenian Patriarchate, reached an agreement to renovate the building's floor, which mostly dated to the 19th century. This renovation project provided a rare opportunity for archaeological excavation beneath the floor. The excavations began in 2022 under the direction of Professor Francesca Romana Stassola from Sapienza University of Rome. The archaeological team has been working in carefully defined, non-contiguous zones to respect religious activities that continue throughout the excavation. We're working in very small, carefully defined areas to respect the flow of religious activity, explained Stassola in an interview with the Times of Israel. This excavation marks the most significant archaeological work conducted at the Church of the Holy Sepulchre since the 19th century. The team works around the clock in shifts, with approximately 10 to 12 people on site in Jerusalem, while others in Rome process the collected data. The garden discovery. One of the most significant recent findings has been evidence supporting the Gospel of John's description of Jesus' burial site. John 19:41 states, "At the place where Jesus was crucified there was a garden, and in the garden a new tomb, in which no one had ever been laid." For centuries, scholars debated whether this was merely a literary device or an accurate historical detail. The recent excavations have uncovered compelling evidence that there was indeed a garden at this location around 2,000 years ago. Through archaeobotanical and pollen analysis of samples retrieved from beneath the basilica's floor, researchers identified the presence of olive trees and grapevines dating to the pre-Christian era. The archaeobotanical findings have been especially interesting for us in light of what is mentioned in the Gospel of John, whose information is considered written or collected by someone familiar with Jerusalem at the time, Professor Stassola noted. The Gospel mentions a green area between the Calvary and the tomb, and we identified these cultivated fields. This discovery provides tangible archaeological evidence supporting the biblical narrative's accuracy regarding the environment where Jesus was buried. While radiocarbon dating has not yet been completed to provide precise dating, the archaeological context and strata indicate these plant remains belong to the pre-Christian era, the tomb's transformation. The history of Christ's tomb and the Church of the Holy Sepulchre reveals multiple phases of destruction and reconstruction. Originally, the site was part of an abandoned quarry that had been converted into a cemetery with rock-cut tombs. According to Christian tradition, Jesus was buried in one of these tombs after his crucifixion. In the early 2nd century CE, Roman Emperor Hadrian built a temple dedicated to Venus over the site, possibly to suppress Christian veneration of the location. Later, when Emperor Constantine converted to Christianity in the 4th century, he ordered the temple demolished and a church built over what was believed to be Christ's tomb. The original church was dedicated around 336 CE, but was damaged or destroyed multiple times throughout history. It was burned by Persian invaders in 614, restored, and then completely destroyed by the Fatimid Caliph al-Hakim bi-Amr Allah around 1009. Byzantine Emperor Constantine IX, Monomachus, funded a rebuilding in the 11th century, and the Crusaders conducted more extensive reconstruction in the 12th century, largely creating the church as it exists today. The Edicule. At the heart of the Church of the Holy Sepulchre stands the Edicule, Latin for little house, a small chapel that encloses what is believed to be the tomb of Jesus. The current Edicule was built in 1810 following a fire, but it has undergone several restorations since then. The most recent major restoration of the Edicule was completed in 2017, led by a team from the National Technical University of Athens. During this restoration, researchers removed the marble cladding that covered the burial bed for the first time since at least 1555. Initial inspection revealed a layer of fill material, but further excavation uncovered the original limestone burial bed. The conservation team also discovered what appeared to be a cross engraved on the limestone wall of the tomb, potentially dating from the Crusader period or earlier. Scientific testing of mortar samples from between the original limestone surface and the marble slab covering it dated to around 345 CE, providing evidence for the earliest shrine on the site and confirming the historical sequence of the tomb's construction and renovation. The archaeological layers. The ongoing excavations have revealed the remarkable layered history of the site, which Professor Stasola describes as being similar to the pages of a book, offering an extraordinary chronicle of the history of Jerusalem. The excavation has taken archaeologists back to the Iron Age, revealing the site's original use as a quarry outside the city walls. As the quarry ceased operations, parts of the area were terraced for agriculture, with low stone walls erected and the spaces between them filled with soil. This agricultural use coincided with the area's function as a burial ground, with tombs carved into the rock at different levels as the quarry was progressively abandoned. When Constantine commissioned the first church, he identified the tomb that had been venerated as Jesus' burial place and had the surrounding rock removed to isolate it from other nearby tombs. The excavated area became what is now the rotunda, the circular area of the church surrounding the edicule. Recent excavations under the current edicule have uncovered a circular marble base that was part of the first monumentalization of the tomb in the 4th century. This discovery helps archaeologists understand how the site developed from a simple rock-cut tomb to an elaborate shrine, and eventually the complex church that stands today. The scientific techniques. The archaeological team is employing advanced scientific methods to analyze their findings. These include archaeobotanical and pollen analysis, used to identify the plant species that once grew at the site, confirming the presence of olive trees and grapevines. 3D mapping and modeling, creating comprehensive digital reconstructions of the excavation areas, allowing researchers to analyze and visualize the site's development over time. Radiocarbon dating. Though not yet completed for all findings, this will provide precise dating for organic materials discovered at the site. Stratigraphic analysis, studying the layers of soil and debris to understand the chronological development of the site. The team also discovered various artifacts, including ceramics, metals, and glass items that document both the occupation of the area and the presence of pilgrims and believers throughout the centuries. Fish remains from distant waters, including ponyfish from the Indo-Pacific Ocean and cod from the Atlantic, indicate the site's importance as a pilgrimage destination that attracted visitors from far-flung regions. The challenges of excavation. Conducting archaeological work at the Church of the Holy Sepulchre presents unique challenges. As one of Christianity's holiest sites, it remains an active place of worship throughout the excavation. The researchers must coordinate with multiple religious communities and work around important liturgical events. During Holy Week and Easter in 2025, the archaeological team temporarily halted their work and installed temporary pavement to accommodate the influx of pilgrims participating in religious ceremonies. This balance between scientific investigation and respect for the site's religious significance requires careful planning and coordination. Another challenge is the complex ownership and management of the church. The site is under the custody of several Christian denominations, primarily the Greek Orthodox, Roman Catholic, and Armenian Apostolic churches, with the Coptic, Ethiopian Orthodox, and Syriac Orthodox churches also having certain rights to parts of the building. Any modification to the structure, including archaeological investigation, requires agreement among these communities. Despite these challenges, the collaboration between archaeologists and religious authorities has been remarkably successful. Professor Stasola noted, "What we've experienced is a great sense of welcome from everyone. We've encountered hospitality, but also diversity. The fact that these two things can coexist is deeply meaningful." The theological significance. For Christians worldwide, the discoveries at the Church of the Holy Sepulchre hold profound theological significance. The confirmation of details from biblical accounts, such as the garden mentioned in John's Gospel, strengthens the historical foundations of Christian faith. The excavation has also uncovered several tombs near the site of Jesus' burial, including one traditionally attributed to Joseph of Arimathea, who according to the Gospels provided his own tomb for Jesus' burial. These findings provide context for understanding the environment in which early Christian beliefs developed. However, Professor Stasola cautions against making direct claims about the theological implications of the archaeological evidence. That kind of reasoning is misleading, she noted, emphasizing that archaeology can provide historical context, but must be interpreted carefully. Nevertheless, for millions of believers, the ongoing excavations offer tangible connections to the foundational events of Christianity. The evidence of an ancient garden on the site creates a powerful link between the physical reality of first-century Jerusalem and the biblical narrative of Christ's death and resurrection. The future of the excavation. The current archaeological work at the Church of the Holy Sepulchre is scheduled to continue until all areas designated for excavation have been thoroughly investigated. We only have a part of the northern aisle left to excavate, Professor Stasola reported in early 2025. Once the excavation is complete, the renovation of the church floor will proceed, incorporating new knowledge gained from the archaeological findings into the design. The renovated floor will include viewing ports that allow visitors to see some of the archaeological discoveries beneath the surface. The artifacts recovered during the excavation will undergo extensive analysis, which could take years to complete. Researchers will continue to study the botanical remains, pottery, coins, and other objects to build a comprehensive understanding of the site's history and significance. Professor Stasola emphasized that the true value of the excavation extends beyond individual artifacts. The real treasure we are revealing is the history of the people who made this site what it is by expressing their faith here. Whether someone believed in the historicity of the Holy Sepulchre or not, the fact that generations of people did is objective. The history of this place is the history of Jerusalem. The historical context. Understanding the Church of the Holy Sepulchre requires placing it within the broader historical context of Jerusalem. The city has been continuously inhabited for thousands of years and has passed through the control of numerous empires and kingdoms. During Jesus' lifetime in the early 1st century CE, Jerusalem was under Roman control as part of the province of Judea. The area where the Church of the Holy Sepulchre now stands was outside the city walls, consistent with Roman practices of conducting executions and burials outside urban center. After the Jewish revolt against Rome in 66 to 73 CE, Jerusalem was largely destroyed. Emperor Hadrian rebuilt it as a Roman colony called Aelia Capitolina around 130 CE, incorporating the former quarry and cemetery area within the new city boundaries and building a temple there. When Constantine became the first Christian Roman emperor in the early 4th century, he sent his mother Helena to identify sites associated with Jesus' life for church construction. The identification of the tomb site may have relied on local Christian traditions that had preserved the location's significance, despite Hadrian's attempts to obscure it. The subsequent history of the church reflects the complex religious and political history of Jerusalem itself. The city passed through Byzantine, Islamic, Crusader, Mamluk, Ottoman, British, Jordanian, and finally Israeli control, with each period leaving its mark on the church and its surroundings. Conclusion. The ongoing archaeological excavations at the Church of the Holy Sepulchre represent a remarkable opportunity to enhance our understanding of one of Christianity's most sacred sites. By carefully removing the centuries-old floor and examining what lies beneath, researchers are uncovering new evidence about the environment in which Jesus was reportedly crucified and buried. The discovery of an ancient garden at the site, aligning with the Gospel of John's description, provides a tangible connection between the biblical narrative and archaeological reality. While questions about the exact location of Jesus' tomb may never be definitively resolved, the current excavations are providing valuable historical context for understanding the development of early Christianity. As Professor Stasola emphasizes, the true significance of the Church of the Holy Sepulchre lies not just in determining whether it marks the exact location of biblical events, but in recognizing it as a place where countless generations have expressed their faith. The ongoing archaeological work honors both the scientific quest for historical understanding and the profound spiritual significance that the site holds for millions of believers worldwide. The layers beneath the church floor, like the pages of an ancient book, continue to reveal new chapters in the story of Jerusalem and the origins of Christianity. As the excavation proceeds, researchers and pilgrims alike await what further discoveries might emerge from this extraordinary site that has stood at the crossroads of faith and history for nearly 2 millennia.